Hey guys, Ariel over here at Nyth. Today I'm going to give you a look around my sleeping loft. This is my ladder going up there. You've probably seen it. A lot of people call these storage stairs. There are drawers in every step. I think of it as a comfortable ladder. You can choose to think of it as a really steep, uncomfortable set of stairs if you like, but I think it's just a pretty handy ladder. There's a pretty nice grab bar right here. Can easily hang on to. Getting up and down this is absolutely no problem at all for me. And this is how I get up into my sleeping loft. When I'm up here, I can turn around and look back down. Grizzly is sleeping on the floor by the door. Fire's burning away. It's looking down the ladder. There you go. Something else I wanted to mention is while I'm happy with my stairs and find them to be excellent storage and easy to get up and down and all of that, if I was building my house from scratch right now, I might go more with this style of stairs because it would be an equal amount of storage and it would be easier for other folks to get up and down when I've got guests, and it would let my doggy climb up in the loft. Just a thought. So now we're up in my sleeping loft here at Nyth. It does have plenty of headroom, as you can see, for me to sit upright. No, I can't stand up, but how much of the time do you spend standing up when you're in bed anyway? I realize for some people with various mobility or age issues that a loft setup like this probably doesn't work, and I totally understand that. And some people need a first floor bedroom. That makes perfect sense. But for me, and if you are younger and or physically active and capable, this setup can work really well and be pretty space efficient for a very small living situation like a tiny house. I love my loft. I'm totally comfortable up here. I've got a few things that help me with that. There is lots of windows up here, and so it's light, it's bright. That's great. I have a pretty awesome view from laying in bed. I've got this cool old chest here. It works as my little nightstand. Got a clock, box of tissues, books, that kind of thing. Have a couple plants up here. My bed is not super neatly made. You'll probably find that anybody's got a loft bed that's on the floor, just because it's really kind of difficult to make things neatly with corners tucked in and such like you can when you've got a bed on a separate frame standing in the middle of the room. You'll probably find them less tidily made than some beds, but it works fine for me, and it looks tidy enough to be okay with my desire to have my house neat and tidy. The mattress is only 4 inches thick. If you can pull the bedding back here, you can see that. This one is actually from IKEA. If I pull the sheet off of it here, you can see there's a zipper under there, and it's 4 inches of foam. I think this mattress, when I bought it, was maybe like $170 or something like that. And it works really well for me for a couple reasons. It is compact as far as the height. If I had a big thick mattress in here, I would lose that much of my headroom, so that would be inconvenient. And because it's foam and doesn't have a solid frame, it can be rolled up, which is important for my loft because I don't have the whole loft end open there. As you saw when we came up the stairs, I've got a kind of a doorway opening, so the loft has some privacy. And so there would be no way to get a mattress on a frame into here unless you put it in before that little cabinet wall, which I'll show you guys in a minute, was built. So this works very well. It's also pretty firm, which is good for me. My back tends to ache. I know everyone's always worried about my back when I carry water and carry gas and split wood and shovel snow and stuff, but what makes my back ache personally is sleeping on a really soft mattress. A few times when I've house sat for friends or stayed at somebody else's place, they have these really nice cushy mattresses, and they feel great when I first lay down on them, but my back starts to ache after like one night. And I'd first learned this when I rented a place that had a probably very expensive pillow top king mattress on the bed, and or like memory foam, yeah, whatever that soft stuff is on top. Felt lovely when I slept in it, and I had been doing a lot of backpacking and stuff, and my back was kind of hurting, and I thought it was probably just, you know, aching a little bit from overuse and stress and such. And then one night I laid down in bed and realized that it started hurting worse the minute I laid down. I thought, you know what, this is a problem. So I actually took that mattress, and you know, some mattresses are made to flip end for end, or top for bottom. This one is not. A lot of the ones with the pillow top stuff built in on top have just a very hard frame on the bottom. They're not made to be reversed. But for the rest of the time I rented that apartment, I did flip it, and I slept on the firm part, and all backaches went away. So I've just learned, for me personally, and that's probably not true for everyone, everybody's body's different, a good firm mattress works well. So for me, it does work very well to have a thin, firm foam mattress, and it is directly on the floor. Now, I have heard people express concerns about and have problems with, some of my friends with tiny houses, in other climates with moisture buildup under a mattress if you don't have a frame lifting it up to ventilate. If I had a problem with that, I would put a little frame, like even just something like an inch thick or something under here to let air move. But so far, and I'm into my 4th year here now, I've not had a problem. It might be several things. I'm only one person, you know, we don't have 2 people or 4 kids or whatever, you know, sleeping in the bed. So there's only so much moisture my body puts off while I'm sleeping. Number 2, I've got a really dry climate here, so the air is doesn't have much humidity in it, and moisture evaporates pretty quickly. Number 3, I do have a wood stove, which is very dry heat, but I'll be honest, even before I put my wood stove in, when I was having condensation problems around the windows and such with the moisture from propane heat, I still didn't have a problem under my mattress. But it is something to be aware of if you have more people producing more moisture, if you live in a more moist climate or any of that, you may need some ventilation under the mattress. The other thing might be that these, these boards right here that are the floor of the loft are also the ceiling underneath of the bathroom and kitchen, which is what I'm sitting on top of right now. So they, it's only a single board thickness there. There's not a big, thick insulated floor. So if there is a tiny bit of moisture, I'm suspecting that some of it just moves through the wood and goes away on its own. But that's something to be aware of, and something I have not personally had a problem with. Like I said, it was very nice that this mattress is rollable, foldable, whatever, to get it into my loft. And if I ever need to move it, I am very happy with this IKEA one. I've seen a few similar ones like on Amazon if you don't live near an IKEA. I actually don't, so if I was buying a new one at this point, I'd probably order it through Amazon. But the one I got, and probably most of them are going to come if you order one, rolled up as a long tube, and it's really compressed, so it's like looks like a giant sausage roll or something. The whole tube was only about that thick, and so when you unwrap it, it takes a day or two for the foam to kind of suck in a full amount of air and go back to its normal size. But it does make it very handy for transporting and shipping. So that's my bed. I personally, again, everybody's body's different. I like to sleep with a lot of cold air. The little window right over there stays open at least a crack year round. Even when it's way below freezing in the winter, you probably know I've got a cold climate here, that always stays open or cracked because I like plenty of fresh air ventilating where I'm sleeping, and I don't like being very hot. Now, if it's summer, all 3 windows will probably be open at least a little bit, so that if it rains overnight or whatever, that's not an issue because they all open out like this. And sometimes even in the winter, I will have this one open if it's just really warm and I want more fresh air close to my head. I also, because heat rises and the wood stove makes the downstairs very, very comfortably hot, and somebody noted I run around barefoot a lot in my house in the winter and it's cold outside. Because heat rises, if I didn't do anything to prevent it, if the downstairs was a comfortable temperature, my upstairs loft would be uncomfortably hot. Now, I've done a couple things to prevent this. First of all, having that partial wall across there does block a lot of the heat. A lot of people like open lofts. I think that's kind of a personal preference thing. I really like the privacy of having it closed off. Plus, I've got some more storage in there. It works really well for me. When I have friends over, depending who or how many, sometimes they sleep up here and I sleep on the couch or vice versa. But it is nice to have just a little bit of a visual barrier kind of privacy between people if you do have other people over and all of that. But because that's already blocking most of the heat, then I've got a little curtain, which is just made with a temporary curtain rod and an extra sheet that I had that goes across my doorway opening. And so then the only air gap that's left to come up here is a little bit of the peak above my cabinet shelf wall there, there is a little bit of the peak open. So a little bit of air does move around up to here, but that does block most of it. So I can keep this pretty nice and cool and have the downstairs pretty nice and warm. And that works really well for me because I also personally, again, like to sleep under just kind of heavy blankets. I know I've got friends who like nothing at all on them. They don't like the weight when they're sleeping. I do. So my bedding, and this is pretty much true winter or summer, I've got a sheet, a cotton blanket, a down comforter, and then this is actually an antique carriage robe. It was a gift from a friend of mine. I think this may be well over 100 years old, maybe closer to 200. I need to ask her actually on the history, but she's in her she's in her 80s, and it came from somebody much older than her and her family. This would have been from the time when transportation was via carriage or buggy or, you know, a horse, and when it was cold outside you didn't have a heater in your car to keep you warm, so you needed something like this. So it is, I was told the top is raccoon fur and the bottom is a very thick wool backing on that. So it is heavy, it is warm. This is probably part of why I can sleep very comfortably and cozy and cuddled in my bed, have a window or two open, have it be well below freezing or even below zero outside, and I stay very comfortable up here. I also will, because I'm not good at sitting still, I like to fidget. If I'm going to work on something on my computer, edit videos or whatever, I don't tend to sit at a desk and just work like this. I sit on the floor, and then I sprawl on the couch, and then I squat on the floor and put my laptop on a chair, and then I'll sit in my bed, and then I'll lay in my bed. I just move around a lot. So I do actually work up here and such as well sometimes, not just sleep, and it is a pretty comfortable space. You know, I got somewhere I can set things. I've got, you know, room to sit, stretch, lay down, whatever. I am really happy with my sleeping loft, and like I said, for having, you know, if you're capable of it mobility wise, using loft space for sleeping, I personally find really efficient, and I do like it. Now I'm going to show you around a few of the other things that you can't see because they're behind you right now. Oh, I do have one light up here, and there's a light switch both upstairs and at the bottom of the stairs downstairs, so it can be turned on or off from either location, which can be handy. And guess that's about that for this direction. Let me turn the camera around. So if I turn my camera around this way, you can see what I was talking about. There is my loft steps. You can see where my paint job didn't get finished. Downstairs is painted, upstairs loft is not done. This is my cabinet cupboard. Please ignore my little junk pile on my top there. That's kind of my accumulation hidey hole for those things that don't have a place to go or you haven't cleaned up right away. There's my other window. Like I said, I've got lots of windows up here, lots of light. I do have a little carpet on the floor right where you come up there, because when you get up the top of the steps ladder, it is, you're going to be on your knees, and so the hardwood is a little bit hard for that. And over here, oh, this is another reason it's good my mattress is flexible, because these doors don't have room to open fully with the mattress there, but because it's flexible and thin, you know, it's easy to curve the mattress out of the way like that, open the door fully, and I store, you know, off-season things, summer hats, winter snowshoes, winter gear, various camping and backpacking things, just things I don't use a whole lot get stored in these cupboards. And there's 3 of those across there, and that is also creating my partial wall for my loft. As I said, this is just a cheap extra curtain rod I had, and I just use my temporary free, because I already had it, sheet to spread across my door, and that seals that off, all except for a little gap at the top, so there still is a little bit of air movement from down below, but it does block most of the heat. And there's my beautiful view outside, looking down over the garden. Not that you can tell it's there under the snow, the wood pile, the fire pit all closed up for the winter. Out this window, which is actually my first view when I wake up in the morning. You can see back into the woods, see a little bit of my shoveled path around the house, some grizzlies tracks down there. Out across the other end of the garden, you can often see birds flying back and forth and squirrels running around, and it's a pretty gorgeous spot. So hopefully that's helpful if you guys are thinking about sleeping arrangements, sleeping lofts, some thoughts on what my setup is like and why it works really well for me, and maybe give you some hints and ideas if you're trying to figure out what you want or what would work for you. And one important thing I forgot to mention with sleeping in a loft or anywhere else is light. I have got blackout blinds on all my windows. They're obviously not a completely full blackout, but it is still daylight outside, and I made these myself for all my windows by actually getting some cheap full-length blackout blinds and just cutting them up and re-sewing them to fit my little windows. But when I pull all of my curtains closed, especially at night, even though it can be bright in here with the full moon at times in the winter, this is broad daylight and my camera still can't adjust to make it any lighter than this in here. It does make it really, really dark, helps you sleep well, and there is nothing at all electronic with any kind of little light or flashy or blinky anything in my sleeping loft at all. If I need to see what time it is, this little clock does have a little tiny light. I can hit that button, but other than that, there's no blue light, no artificial light, and I can even block the natural light almost totally if I want, which can be important because from what I understand, like I always tell you guys, go do your own research, but artificial light while you're sleeping can really disrupt your sleep and the healing that goes on. I saw one study that said even a little tiny light the size of a pen light being shown on the back of somebody's knee while they slept produced very measurable changes in their brain activity and the regeneration and healing that needs to happen while you're sleeping. So if you can do anything to make your sleeping place dark, especially from any kind of artificial lights, blue lights, that would be any of the little LED lights, any of the little, like, let you know it's plugged in, let you know the power's on lights on anything. I would do my best to remove all of those from your sleeping area. Keep it nice and dark, get a good night's sleep, let your body actually rest and recover. Thanks for watching, folks. If you're interested in more info on my off-grid tiny house life, check out some of my other videos here. And if you like what you're seeing, click the little picture of my house to subscribe and then hit the little bell so YouTube actually notifies you every time there's a new video available. See y'all next time.